you've ever been at a party before and people are wanting you to jump into the dance floor because there's a song that everyone is supposed to dance to. But maybe you're just not in the mood for dancing right now. And you have that push to say, we're playing this song, you need to go in there. It's the electric slide or the cha-cha slide. Now, those are great songs, but the whole point being, in this gospel today, there is Jesus speaking about this generation, saying that you're like a dance party in which they're playing a particular song and they're mad that you're not dancing along to their song. Now, when the song is good, well, then that's great, but when it's a song that is the song of the world versus the song of Christ, then that's not great. And when we start living our lives for Christ, there is this pressure of the world that says, hey, you're not conforming to the system. You're not dancing along in the way that everybody else is dancing, so get off the dance floor. We can feel this pressure if you've ever had that experience of living out your faith in a public way. And it doesn't necessarily mean in a mean way. It doesn't mean going over to someone and punching someone because they don't believe in God. But when we live our life and say, yes, God exists, Jesus Christ is Lord of the universe, and He is Lord over every single earthly power, and I bow down to Him before anyone else, sometimes we get that experience of saying, you're not allowed to do that. And yet the Lord says wisdom is vindicated by her works. And what that means is, look to Jesus Christ, look what He's done, and He will bring that peace. The world will not bring that peace, but the Lord will bring that peace. And He wants to give us roots. This responsorial psalm is about these two ways, these two dances in a sense. There's the song of the Lord that He sings, and it's the song that our heart was made for. And when we follow that song, when we don't follow the way, the counsel of the wicked, the company of the insolent, the way of sinners, but when we delight in the law of the Lord, when we meditate on this law day and night, in other words, when we're singing in that song that was given to us, then we will be like a tree planted by running water. So the water is not stagnant, it's fresh, it's full of life, and that tree will yield its fruit in due season. We see this tree later on in the book of Revelation actually being the tree of life that has fruit that never ever fades. There are no seasons in which there isn't fruit. It's always there. Now, if we follow the other song, the song that the world presents to us saying, this is how to dance. This is what fame looks like. This is what power looks like. This is what joy looks like in a worldly sense. Well, then as we start dancing that one, and we might have the whole crowd celebrating and saying, yes, you're dancing along. But we become like chaff. Chaff is, if you think about when the harvest happens, you can see it with the grain and the corn, that it's when they take like a sift, and what they do is they kind of throw it up in the air. If you've seen farmers in older times, like now we have more mechanized things, but they would take kind of a sort of something like this that had holes in it, and they would just shake it up and down. Because the things that were heavy, the actual corn, the actual grain, would go up and down. and that would be left over. But the chaff would be kind of the dust. It would be just like the husks that are just light and airy. And so when you go like that in a Midwestern wind time, what's going to happen? All of that stuff that has no roots, that's not good for anything, it's just going to float away and disappear. And the Lord says, that's what it's like when we follow the song of the world. We're just going to disappear. We're just going to become shallow. There's a very famous poet who actually converted to Catholicism named T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot had this poem called The Hollow Men. It's a very interesting poem because it talks about our modern age and how we've kind of hollowed out. We might look great, we might look connected, we might look powerful, and yet we're probably some of the shallowest of all time. We don't know how to deep think. We don't know how to be in relationship with others. We are connected, and yet we are so disconnected. And you see that with every generation that goes by. It gets harder and harder to live out basic humanity. We become hollow. We become airy. We become rootless. And that's why we need Christ. Christ is the one that can break into the shallowness of this world and give us roots. He can give us the weight of glory, so that when we are sifted, we don't just float away with the air, but that we become the fruit of the harvest. So that's really the call today, and it's the call of Christianity. There are two ways. There's one that brings a weight of glory, but it involves the cross. It involves dying to the shallow part of our life so that we can truly live. Or we can choose to go the way of chaff and sing along with the world. And we might have a grand old time, and yet we're having a grand old time floating away into nothingness. The cross leading to true substance, or the song of the world, the grand old time that leads away into emptiness. What is our choice?